Well, our plans basically revolve around the idea of thinking local and specifically about buying local as well. During the last financial year, Wrexham Council spent 116 million on procuring services, but that only 33% of those services were procured with local firms within the county borough area, and further that only 45% overall were actually procured within Wales. So what that shows us is that obviously we're losing out on what could be a significant economic benefit locally. And we've been monitoring this for a number of years now, and these are figures that have remained quite stubbornly low. So the idea behind the policy is to have a real push to improve those figures quite significantly. Well, the plans are going to benefit people of Wrexham in quite a wide range of ways, really. We believe that upping the amount of contracts that go to local firms by 25% initially will create up to 1,500 new jobs. But beyond that, having a more progressive strategy around procurement and looking at how we can influence then how that extra spending is then respent within the local economy, we can look to direct that to tackle issues such as deprivation. We can look to make sure more of that is spent with local businesses. We can also look to have quite ambitious green targets as well in terms of reducing carbon footprint. So there's quite a wide range of benefits in terms of doing this. It's pretty much a win-win situation. Currently, there is nothing to stop the Welsh Government, the Welsh NHS or Wrexham Council from aiming to increase the amount of services that are procured with local firms or setting a specific number on what they would like that increase to be. Basically what EU law says is that you can't prefer a local firm just because they're local. But what you can do is introduce things called community benefit clauses. So these are things such as securing a local workforce, reducing carbon footprint. There are a number of others, and you can also look at generally unbundling bigger contracts so that smaller firms also get a look in. It's quite a range of performance at the moment across Wales, really, in terms of Welsh councils. So we've got some Welsh councils that are procuring up to 75% already within Wales, and we've got others like Wrexham Council who are sitting at around the 40-45% mark. So I think it's clear that there's quite a lot more we can do. That said, it was only a few years ago that we were only securing about a third of contracts across Wales domestically, and that's improved recently to about 50%. But still, looking at that, when you consider that, you know, across Wales that budget is just over 4.2 billion, I think I'm right in saying, losing over half of that through leakage is a big issue. So there's clearly a lot more we can do. But the big problem really is that it is just that it's guidance, it's not mandatory. And the basic problem simply is that a lot of public bodies simply aren't doing it. Looking at this issue in a wider context across the EU, Germany sources 98.8% of its public contracts domestically. In France, it's 98.5%. In Scotland, a bit closer to home, it's 75%. In Wales, it's sitting around the 50% mark. So I think it's clear looking across the EU, we can be much more ambitious with this than we are being at the moment. And I think we've got to be as well. It's no time really for business as usual anymore. We've really got to be more ambitious and push forward with this. Back in, I think it was 2012, the Federation for Small Businesses actually looked at this, and they quote the example of Manchester City Council. And through quite a progressive strategy around procurement, and around, I think they described it, a strategy around place, economic development and influence, they actually managed to increase the amount that was spent locally from 25 pence in the pound to 42 pence in the pound. So that's quite a significant economic benefit locally that obviously not just around benefits in terms of job creation, but benefits existing local businesses as well, potentially supports creation of new businesses. Well, what we'd like to do across Wales is actually increase the level of procurement domestically by 25%. So to take it from around the 50% mark where it is now up to 75%, and that'll create 48,000 jobs across Wales. That could potentially dent the unemployment rate in Wales by 40%. So again, these are significant benefits, and we'd also look to legislate to ensure that we get the benefits from procurement and we see the improvements that we need. But in addition to procurement, we're looking at a whole package of measures to boost our economy in Wales. So along with procurement, we would look to implement a living wage, which would be a direct pay rise for 250,000 Welsh workers. And in addition to that, we'd look to take over 70,000 Welsh businesses out of business rates altogether. And together, we hope that package of measures will really make a difference to people's lives and get our economy moving. Fundamentally as well with this is the idea of pushing for a bit of a culture shift, I think, within the local council and having a much more local focus. I think there's a much wider benefit to that, and I think there's a need for that to happen at the moment. So we're hoping, you know, as part of this, that potentially, we could see a culture shift generally to having a much more local focus, which will bring much wider benefits to Wrexham.